Okay, this is going to be lesson 3.6, and our four do now problems are going to be our spiral review on page 170. So go ahead and turn to 170, pause your video, and do these four problems the best you can. This last one's a little tough. It's a multi-step problem. Okay, let's go over them together. So Rachel earned $89 on Tuesday. She spent $55 at the store. How much money does she have left? When you line up your decimals and do that subtraction, you have $33.81 is the amount she has left. Right here in this problem, we are comparing 17/20ths to 87/100ths. So in order to make this into a decimal, we can easily do that by taking our 20, multiplying it by 5 to get 100 on the bottom. 17 times 5 is 85. So 85/100ths is less than 87/100ths. Then we have 1/2 of 7/8, and of tells us to multiply. I don't see any simplifying here, so you just multiply the top, multiply the bottom, and your numerator will be 7, denominator 16ths of a mile. So 7/16 of a mile. Then this one is a little bit tough. Trig has a package of 3/4 package of marigold seeds, 3/4 package. He plants 1/6 of those seeds in his garden and divides the rest equally into 10 flower pots. What fraction of the package of seeds is planted in each flower pot? So first, I figured out how many of them he planted in the garden. So I did 1/6 times 3/4, simplified, and I had 1/8 of the seeds went into the garden. So we started with 3/4 of a package and we subtracted the 1/8 that went into the garden. So in order to subtract those two, I needed a common denominator. So I multiplied my top and bottom by 2 and I got 6/8 minus the 1/8 is 5/8. So 5/8 of them went into the garden. So he put them in 10 flower pots. So I put 5/8 divided by 10. And when I divided, I'm going to flip the second and multiply. The 1 will be on top and the 10 on the bottom. Simplified, and I had 1/16 in each pot. So 1/16 of the package was in each pot. All right, that was a multi-step problem. A little tough, but if we do them enough, you get better and better at them. So today is hat day. Well, I'm pre-recording this, so you guys probably remember this hat. All right, let's compare using absolute value. So today we're going to talk a little more about absolute value and when we actually use absolute value in real life. So when you talk about things like digging a hole, say I dug 2 feet, even though that's a negative 2 feet below sea level or below the surface of the earth, it's a negative number. We're saying we dug that hole 2 feet down. So we're using absolute value in that statement. Another way that we use absolute value is when we talk about debt. If you say, oh, $200 in debt, what you actually mean is you have negative $200, but instead we use the word debt to describe that. Below sea level, sometimes if you are doing deep diving, or going below the sea level and you're diving down 50 feet, that is a negative 50 feet that you are going, but we say we are diving 50 feet. So we're saying it as an absolute value of that number. Here's an example. So we're going to graph the elevation of a negative 10. So elevation of a negative 10 is below the 0. So we're going to pick a number, and then we're going to pick a number less than negative 10 and graph it. So first we need to put our 0 on the graph line. So we know that we are going below 0 for our negative 10. Go ahead and make a spot to put your negative 10. And then we are going to pick a number less than a negative 10 and graph it. And I picked a negative 20. You could have picked a number negative 12, but here I was going in groups of 10. So I just picked the next group down would be a negative 20. Another place that we use this negative numbers is when we talk about below zero weather, when it gets really, really cold out, like it's 20 below. Woo, so cold out today. That is like negative 20 degrees, but we say 20 below zero instead of using that negative. All right, so we're going to compare this table. This says balance is greater than a negative $16. So on a number line, let's just talk about where negative 16 would fall on a number line. We would have maybe 5, 10, 15, 20. Those would be our positive numbers. And if you go back the other way, negative 5, negative 10, negative 15, negative 20. And it's asking us for balances greater than negative 16. So negative 16 would fall right here. And all of the numbers this way are going to be greater than a negative 16. This way would be smaller than the negative 16. So if we have a negative 15, our debt would be a debt of $15. If we had a negative 14, our debt would be $14 in debt. If you owe someone $14, you're $14 in debt. If our debt was $13, that would mean we had a negative $13. Okay, let's look at another one. This one, we're just going to be doing some comparing. The first one, I'll do it, just watch me. We have a negative 8 and an absolute value of a negative 8. The absolute value of a negative 8 is just 8. So I have to compare a negative 8 to 8. And so negative 8 is smaller or less than 8. So this would be a less than symbol. Negative 8 is less than the absolute value of negative 8. Because the absolute value sign tells you that this is always going to be a positive answer. Okay? All right. These you could write down. And then we're going to try them together. Go ahead and write them. All right, now we're going to try them. So we have 13. This is a positive 13 and an absolute value of negative 13. So remember, absolute value always tells you that it's going to be how many spots away from zero that the negative 13 is. That is 13 spots. So those two are going to be equal. All right, then we have a negative 23. The absolute value of that would be 23. Absolute value of this one would be 24. 24 is greater than the 23, so we have 23 is less than 24. We're always pointing at the smaller number, mouth open to eat the bigger number. All right, here we have a negative 5, and we're comparing it to an absolute value of negative 6, which would be 6. 6 is greater than a negative 5, so we eat the 6 and we point to the negative 5. Negative 5 is less than 6. Okay, this seems pretty simple. Sometimes you can get a little confused with the words, so make sure you read well. Take your time. This isn't one you need to rush through. We have lots of time to finish it today. So go ahead and start your Think Central assignment.